The India-US economic relations may be on a bumpy ride, but the US Supreme Court scrutiny of tariffs has added to the uncertainty on the trade framework, which not only suffers from structural anxieties but also displays a shift in the American policy towards an inward looking approach that may well last beyond President Donald Trump's tenure. However, here lies a twist, as India enjoys a plethora of opportunities that sit outside the formal trade deal. For example, India is emerging as a major data center hub, supported by tax incentives in the recent union budget. Richard Rossow, senior advisor at the Washington based Center for Strategic and International Studies, says if strategic confidence is built, several US based multinationals will be investing in data infrastructure. India's multilingual experience provides an advantage in building adaptable AI systems, particularly in healthcare, energy distribution, and public service delivery. If executed effectively, AI could position India as a development partner of choice for the global south, he says. Let's hear from Richard Rossow, who was in India recently for the Global AI Summit, on what's in store for India's AI and data center growth. We have with us Mr. Richard Rossow, Senior Advisor at the Washington based Center for Strategic and International Studies. Thank you for speaking with the week, sir.
Of course.
So, you're here for the Global AI Summit. How has your experience been so far? And, in coming days, we are just looking at the Indian negotiator, chief negotiator, going to Washington now to stitch the trade deal together. It's a very exciting time. How do you look at how India and US are really taking forward this entire long process of consultation that has been going on?
Yeah, on the AI Summit, certainly there's some things organizationally that could have been a little bit stronger on getting people in and out of the venue and the crowds, things like that. But the level of announcements, the fact that they got so many global leaders, they got so many AI leaders to show up and make big commitments. I think what the government of India wanted to see out of this, which is showing leadership, showing how AI has tremendous promise for improved service delivery for the global South. I think a lot of India's own objectives for the event were certainly met. The United States obviously had a modest group that was out here from the government, but a huge group in terms of corporates. Big displays at the event centers, speeches from a lot of the big shot CEOs from America's largest AI companies. So I think we had a really good presence that way. A lot of that momentum will be underscored if we manage to get the ink dried and the legal pieces of this trade framework agreement that got announced. So it's good to see the Indian negotiators back in the United States. We're all very eagerly waiting the details on what's going to be in there. What sort of things in agriculture is the United States going to be able to get market access for? What's going to be left out of it? A little bit more detail in terms of India's agreement to purchase a lot more American goods going forward. So a lot of questions about what was in there beyond the big statement that was made. But it's good to see that we are finally going to get this agreement across the finish line and hopefully unlock that next big wave of American trade and investment with India.
We've seen US lawmakers really, raising a lot of concern also about entry level jobs being taken over by AI. What are the concerns really when we look at talent export uh, between India and US?
Well, I think some of the concerns about AI fall into three different buckets. You really point out the concerns about what's going to happen with the future of jobs. Is there going to be a lot of replacement? Certainly there is. Are there going to be other jobs being created? That tended to kind of backfill when we had the internet and other big changes to the economy taking over. So jobs is certainly one, and that's probably the one here the most persistently across the United States. The second is concerns about safety. Are they training models in ways that kids would be encouraged to harm themselves? These things certainly got a lot of attention whenever they do happen. And the third is more kind of existential risk. As we continue to build out AI tools that are there for military operations, is that going to continue to grow? A race with China where we begin handing over more and more autonomy to weapons that may not have our best interests at heart. Maybe that's mostly in the realm of science fiction, but these are the three main buckets of fears and concerns that you hear about. I think in India, between those three, the only one that I hear kind of persistently is probably the concern about jobs, and that's mostly relegated to the dynamic IT services sector, where you got basic jobs and software and engineering things like that, and that may be replaced sooner than others. But the other main fears you don't hear quite as much. As I was here for the AI Summit, it was mostly kind of go the big things AI can do for improving the economy, improving public service delivery. So a lot of bullishness is what I walk away from the summit and my trip here with.
Another key, discussion point at the AI summit has been data sovereignty versus free flow of data. At the AI summit, India has been emphasizing sovereign AI. We've also talked of the Manav vision. How do these indigenous frameworks really align or clash with the US interests in the free flow of data?
Well, I think when the word sovereign AI comes up, I think for India there are areas where sovereignty is going to be very important. Most notably, AI applications that are used for national security objectives, such as sifting through intelligence information, trying to make connections that humans could not. That sovereignty obviously is critical, and I'm sure is going to be first and foremost in Indian developers' minds. Beyond that, if India wants access to the chips that are going to make the AI revolution possible, that's not going to be possible in a sovereign environment because the United States, Taiwan, tend to be the main developers at least for now. The leading edge AI models, most likely, companies like Google, OpenAI are going to be at the forefront for that. So, in as much as India wants to use the biggest, best, and most powerful large language models, the United States will be a partner there. And I think, with the budget India just released, this 21-year tax holiday for data centers that are servicing global markets, I think India kind of drew a line in the sand and said, we want to be open, we want data flows, we want to be a part of the ecosystem. But again, for areas like national security, I fully understand that sovereignty has got to be first and foremost in mind. So some applications will require sovereignty. Wide scale applications are going to be more about partnership.
Looking at the US India economic linkages, and we saw you, months ago at YZAG, there's a lot of connection between, the federal level engagements. How has your experience been in Andhra Pradesh, and where do you think really are the opportunities for India? We're looking at a lot of data centers now being set up.
Yeah, at the end of the day, companies aren't investing in India; they're investing in different states. And you've seen some states really kind of leading on policy, and other states lagging behind. Andhra Pradesh, the Chandrababu Naidu government, going back to even undivided Andhra Pradesh, has always been a leader, both in terms of policy development, but in terms of direct engagement with global CEOs and trying to encourage that investment. So they look at the world as an opportunity, as something that they want to embrace. I think with India's emerging technology revolution, you've seen two states, Gujarat and Tamil Nadu, land a lot of the big tech investments in those areas. Maharashtra's got the economic gravity because of population and the big bases of Mumbai and Pune. That Maharashtra is always going to be one of the places investors have to think about. The real, I think, hurdle and obstacle that India has to overcome is making sure that other states begin to enter the fray. Bengal has not usually been on the tip of people's tongues. Bihar remains the most backward of states, even though you've got a long level of solid governance. So, getting a few more of these big states, I mean, those two combined have almost 200 million people. That's a country. So, I think for India's progress, meeting its 2047 targets, you got to have a few more states that are pulling at the oars for economic development. That involves smart policy change, execution, but also traveling the world and trying to encourage CEOs to make those big investments.
So, last question. You're going back to Washington soon. How do you really now assess from Trump 1 to Trump 2, and now in the coming months going forward, India, US economic relations coming back on track, or are there going to be challenges till the time we see Trump in the saddle?
I suspect challenges will be persistent for the next 3 years of the Trump administration. And it was actually a bit the case the last time that Trump was in office. We had a medium intensity trade war. We revoked India's GSP trade benefits. India initiated retaliatory tariffs against the United States. That all happened during Trump's first administration, but at the leader level, they had a warmness that you saw at these big summits in Gujarat and Texas. This time, it's been more of the negative without as much of the positive till late. Luckily, we've had a few weeks now of relatively good news. We got a new 10-year defense framework agreement. They got the framework for the trade agreement done. Now that you start to see, I think some of the damage being repaired. Hopefully, we can maintain that. And having somebody who's as personally close to the president, to Sergio Gore, as the ambassador to India, at least we know we have an accelerant. So when we're ready to do good things, you got somebody here that's capable of doing bigger things than a typical ambassador is able to do. So hopefully, this marks the turning point. But something tells me we're going to be riding a surfboard of both good and bad news depending on the week.